Welcome to our Amud Yomi Shiur. We are studying the Matzah Kiddushin. Today's daf is daf Lamed Daled Amud Aleph, but right now we're still in Lamed Gimel Amud Beis. We still have to finish the topic of Kavod Talmidei Chachamim, standing up in honor of a Talmid Chacham, a scholar. When he enters the area, you have to stand up in his honor. And we're going to see one more detail regarding this. The Shiur is Le'ilui Nishmas of Menachem ben Akiva and leHatzlacha Hatzalo of everybody in this country in our not an easy situation. It says in the Torah, Ve'bitu achre Moshe ad boi ha'ohela. Yeah, it says that the people of Israel, they would look and watch Moshe Rabbeinu all the way until he entered his tent. What does it come to tell me? Why do we have to know that? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Apparently, it's a machlokes, yet a dispute between Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Chad Omar l'gnai, Chad Omar l'shvach. One of them says that really it's coming to say that Bnei Yisrael unfortunately viewed Moshe Rabbeinu negatively, and the other one says l'shvach, that Bnei Yisrael actually they were meshabeach. It's good for Bnei Yisrael and good for Moshe Rabbeinu. They saw something positive and respectful in Moshe Rabbeinu. They were respecting him, and that is why the pasuk is telling me that they watched him all the way to the oil. What does it mean? The Gemara now is going to elaborate. Manda Omer Lignai Kideisa. The one who says Lignai, the opinion that says that was Lignai, that Bnei Israel were saying derogatory things about Moshe Rabbeinu. The Gemara says, Kedeisa, as we learned somewhere else. We've learned in a different place, in Masechet Shkolim, in the Medrash. It says, the Gemara doesn't want to go into it now because it's really so terrible what Bnei Israel said about Moshe Rabbeinu. They said about Moshe Rabbeinu that his thighs were very fat and his neck was big, and all this is so fat because he's eating from our food. In other words, they were claiming Moshe Rabbeinu is taking money from Bnei Israel. Unbelievable, but that's what people spoke about Moshe Rabbeinu. Yeah, okay, some people. And Man de Omar Lishvach. Now, the other opinion that says that they were looking at Moshe Rabbeinu in a positive way, what does it mean? And what does it have to do with our sugya that speaks about respecting Talmidei Chachamim? What does it mean? Omar Chizkiah, Omar li Rabbi Chanina, Bred Rabbi Abo. Rabbi Chanina, the son of Rabbi Abo, said it to me, says Chizkiah. Omar Rabbi Abo, quoting Rabbi Abo, Omar Rav Dimi de min Chaifa, quoting Rav Dimi of Chaifa. What is the halacha that we learn from that scene with Moshe Rabbeinu? Chacham oiver, if a regular Talmid Chacham, a scholar, a Talmid Chacham comes and he's about to enter the area, is passing by, passing through where you happen to be sitting, oimed milafonav dalad amos. Then once the Talmid Chacham enters the Daled Amos area, the domain, because we know in Halacha, in Yiddishkeit, every person has his domain of Daled Amos for Kinyonim, for Eruvin, for Shabbos, all kinds of things. So when a Chacham comes to your turf of Daled Amos, then you have to stand up, because only then it shows that you're standing up, not just like that because you have a backache. You're standing up because you want to respect him. Once he's been past the next Daled Amos, away from you, once he's past that distance, then you can sit down again. All in all, altogether, 8 Amos. You have to be standing while he's walking into the Daled Amos, and then past the Daled Amos. While he's there, you have to stand up to show respect. Further than that, if you stand up too early, then we do not necessarily connect between you standing up and him coming in. We don't see the connection. However, Av Bezdin, now we're going higher in the hierarchy. Av Bezdin over, if an Av Bezdin passes by, Oimid Milofonov Meloi Einov, then you have to stand up in his honor, Meloi Einov. Once he enters your field of vision, you have to already get up in his honor. This is more important. He's an Av Bezdin. He has the head of the Bezdin, of the court. The Kevin Chover Daled Amos Yoshev. Once he was over, once he's already past your area where you sit, Daled Amos away from you, 4 Amos, which is about 2 meters away from you, then you can go back to your sedentary position of sitting down. Nasi, third one, the higher of them all, Nasi. Nasi is the leader of the nation, officially the Nasi, the leader of the nation, such as Moshe Rabbeinu, he was also a Nasi. Nasi oiver oimed milafon of Melo Einov. You have to stand up while he is already, once he enters your field of vision, you got to stand up already. And you're only allowed to sit down when he sits in his place. When he sits in his place, only then you're allowed to sit down, not before that. How do we know that you have to start all the way from when he comes in till all the way out until he goes into his own place? Says the Torah, you know how we know that? Shenemar, it says, Vebitu achre Moshe ad bo'hela. They should look, they did look, they watched Moshe Rabbeinu because they stood in honor of Moshe Rabbeinu and they looked to make sure that he gets back into his tent, and only then they could go back to sitting down. So now a few questions. Question number one, which we asked yesterday, is something here doesn't make sense. We said that a regular Talmid Chacham, you're not supposed to stand up too early for him because then you don't know, you don't see that you're standing up in his honor. Like it's too far apart. On the other hand, when you have the Nasi, when you have the Av BSD, and I want to add something we said yesterday, not only the Nasi, even a Talmid Chacham Muvhak. If the Talmid Chacham Rabbi Muvhak, let's say if it's your own Rov, you have to stand up in his honor, even when you begin to see him. As he enters the corner of your eye, you already have to stand up. The Gemara said that before. Yeah, we said Rabbi Muvhak Meloi Einov. We said Abaye, once he saw the ear of the donkey of his Rebbe, he would right away stand up. Why? We say that it's not nicker, it's not visible, the connection is not visible. So why do you get up that early? So I saw in the Noise Kelim of the Shulchan Aruch the answer, and they say precisely because by Talmid Chacham, a regular Talmid Chacham, a nice, good 35 years old Talmid Chacham, not Gadol Ador, not Rabbi Muvak, not the Nosi, he's not a wow of the generation. When he comes into the room, people don't connect you standing up in his honor precisely because you don't have to. Since you don't have to stand up in his honor, then they would say, listen, I stood up when he came in, my back was hurting because my physiotherapist told me that I have to stand up. That's why. A Gadol Ador, a Nasi, when he comes into the field of vision or into the room, into the area, and you stand up, because Allah demands it, then people do connect. Precisely because Allah says that you have to, Mimela, people realize and understand, he's standing up in his honor, and then we don't have the issue. So basically, there are 4 levels of standing up, and this is where we're holding. One more thing I want to add regarding what we spoke about yesterday, mutual respect between Talmidei Chachamim. 2 Talmidei Chachamim of the same level don't have to stand up the full length, full height, one from the other, but they have to do hidu. They have to show a little bit of, as if they're about to stand up, just move their lower part a little bit up, and to show at least minimal respect, that's enough. Now we're about to start a whole new issue. We're excited. We're about to start the topic of mitzvos shazman gromo. Those mitzvahs that women are exempt from. Kol mitzvos shazman gromo v'chulei. Tanu Rabbanon. Ezo mitzvos shazman gromo. What is the mitzvos shazman gromo? Namely, a mitzvah caused by time, or a mitzvah that only applies in specific times and not in other times. Time-related mitzvah. There are really 2 ways to define this. According to Rashi, the idea is a mitzvah that sometimes applies and doesn't always apply. That's mitzvah shazman groma. We're going to give examples and then we'll mention other opinions. Example number 1, sukkah. A woman is exempt from sukkah. You only sit in the sukkah 7 days, 7 nights, not before, not after. It's a time-related mitzvah, and therefore women are exempt. Sukkah, velulav. Lulav, same thing. You take lulav, only during sukkahs, so women are exempt. If women choose to sit in the sukkah or take the lulav, then it's a machloikas, between Toises and other Rishonim, followed by the Mechaber and the Ramah. Machloikas if women have to make a bracha or not. According to Toises, according to the Ramah, they have to make a bracha. According to Shulchan Aruch, they don't. Now, shofar women do not have to listen to the shofar blowing, to the tkiyas shofar on Rosh Hashanah. They're allowed to, they don't have to. Why? It's only once a year. Okay, twice. Yeah. It's only 2 days a year, so that's very time related. So do women actually listen to shofar? The Chai Odom says that women have accepted upon themselves to listen to the shofar blowing, to the tkiyas shofar, But if it's difficult, if they're sick or it's hard for them, they don't have to. The level of chiyuv is less, of that of the men, because me'ikar din, by the words of the Gemara, the main halacha, they do not have to listen to shofar. The tzitzis, also women don't have to put on tzitzis, because tzitzis is not a nighttime garment. You don't put on tzitzis by night, and therefore tzitzis you're exempt from if you're a woman, because it's not something that applies 24/7. It only applies 12/7, only when you're awake, only when it's daytime. Other opinions say only the garment of the day. It's not all the time. The tefillin, same as for tefillin, you're not supposed to wear tefillin by night, according to some. Not supposed to wear tefillin on Shabbos, because Shabbos is an ois. Shabbos is already a symbol. We don't need the symbol of tefillin. We don't put on tefillin Shabbos and Yom Tov. In Eretz Yisrael, you don't put it in, according to many people, you don't put it on Chol Hamoed, and therefore it's time related. It's a zman groma, and women are exempt from tefillin. Tefillin and tzitzis are not accepted to be worn by women, because it's considered to be a male garment. Once it's a male garment, and we have an issue of lo yilbash, women are not supposed to be dressed like men, or vice versa. So you're not supposed to wear tefillin or tzitzis. Even those women who did, such as Michal Bas Shaul, she would have done it betzina in her house. She was such a holy person. Michal, the wife of David, Michal, she would wear tefillin. Shkoyach, that's something different, because she did it secretly. The Ezu mitzvah says shelo ezman goma. When do we have a mitzvah says that is not caused by time? Here we have other examples: mezuzah, make. Mezuzah, women have to have mezuzah on their door, even a woman who lives by herself. Make is the fence the one has to have around his roof, and that applies to both men or women. A woman who lives in her own house, she has to have a make. She has to have that safety fence. Aveda is a woman who found an item in the street, has to return it to the one who lost it. V'shiluach haken, sending away the mother bird while you take the baby birds. That applies to women as well as to men. Okay, so basically, it seems like the Brisa gave us a few examples on each side, but it looks like women are, from the tone of voice, so to speak, of the Brisa said kol. Sukkah v'lulav ezu mitzvah sese. Sounds like like this is the rule that always applies. All mitzvah sese shazman goma, they're exempt, and regular mitzvahs, they are committed, they're obligated. Frekt, the Gemara asks the Gemara, "B'kololo, is that a rule? Is that so? Is the Brisa really telling me the rule?" I can show you a few exceptions to the rule on both directions. Are matzah, mitzvahs matzah, women have to eat matzah on Leila Seder. Why is that? Because matzah and the chiyuv of matzah and the isser of chometz are mentioned together in this week's parsha boy, one next to the other. Just like a woman is not supposed to eat chometz, because to break an isser, a woman is never allowed to, except for shaving the head. Women are not allowed to break any mitzvahs lo taseh, either zman groma or not. So a woman is not supposed to eat chometz, and therefore she has to eat matzah. Are matzah, simcha. Another mitzvah to say a woman is obligated, even though it says man groma, is simcha. What's a mitzvah of simcha? A woman's supposed to come and enjoy herself on Yom Tov, on Chol Hamoed, v'samachta b'chagecha. It says ato bincho bitecha. You, your son, and your daughter, the girl, is supposed to be happy. The whole family together, women as well as men. So even though it's time related, simchas Yom Tov, simchas Chag, women are committed. Hakel. Mitzvah sakel. It says outright in the Torah, noshim and taf, men, women, and children would all come to listen to the melech, to the king, when he would read the Torah in Beis Hamikdash in the 8th year, in the succah of the year after Shemitah. So you see that, it applies to women. The mitzvah says shazman gromer. All these three mitzvahs, all of them are zman gromer. They are time related. And yet women do have to follow them. They have to fulfill them. So you see, not like you're saying, you see there's an exception, the two. And now I'll ask you from the other direction, from the other side. V'harei Talmud Torah. I'll show you a whole bunch of mitzvahs which are not time related, and yet women are exempt. Talmud Torah, it says v'shinantam levonecha v'lo libnei secha. Women are not obligated to learn Torah. They have to know their halachos. They can learn parts of the Torah, but they're not mechuyev in Talmud Torah. So Talmud Torah, although it's not as man groma at all, Talmud Torah is the most non-mitzvah groma. You have to learn Torah every second of the day, ideally, whenever you can. So Talmud Torah, Pirya Verivya, the mitzvah's pruvu is not time related. Conceptually, if a person is 70 years old and he was not yet Mekayim Pirya Verivya, he has to do it. It's not related to day, night, a certain age. Whenever you can, you have to be Mekayim the mitzvah of bringing a boy and a girl to this world. And women are exempt from that. You know, women are exempt because it says when a Kosh Baruch Hu told Odom Rishon, you should do Pirya Verivya and then conquer the earth. The humankind should be the leading, race, so to speak, the leading creatures in the world. And women are not supposed to be koivesh, are not supposed to be conquerors. Women should be more tsanua, not a conqueror. So Pirya Verivya is not a mitzvah on a woman. A woman may have to get married to help the man. She gets married, whatever, to avoid her from doing an avera, it says. But a woman doesn't have a chiyuv of Pirya Verivya, not at all as much as a man. The Pidyon Haben is not time related because once the baby is, we know he's alive. The reason why we wait 30 days is not time groma. You have to wait 30 days from the birth until you do Pidyon Haben, until you redeem your firstborn from the Kohen. Why do you do the Pidyon Haben? Well, to get your son back from the Kohen, any given moment, day, night, after months, after a year. A person who's 30 years old can also do Pidyon Haben. It's not time related, and women are not supposed to be poida the sons. I mean, they're not obligated to do Pidyon Haben or their children, as we learned a few dapim ago. It's a male mitzvah. So as the Gemara says, the lav mitzvah says shazman gromahu. All these three mitzvahs, Talmud Torah, Pirya, Pidyon Haben, are not time related at all, and yet v'noshim pturos. So you see that the rule you're telling me is not such a rule. There are exceptions to each direction. Says the Gemara, you're right. Answers the Gemara, so what? Omer Rabbi Yochanan, true. Ein lemedin min ha-klolois, true. You're not supposed to learn from the klolois. In other words, when you have a klal, when you have a rule, the rule always has exceptions to the rule. Don't learn from the rule saying this is always like that. There are exceptions. Continues Rabbi Yochanan and says even more, furthermore, even in a place, even if the Mishnah tells you that this and this applies, except for one case. Oh, that sounds like A, B, C apply, but D doesn't. That sounds like it always applies, except for case D. That is to say, that's the only exception to the rule? No. Says Rabbi Yochanan, even if it says except for one case, may have other additional exceptions to the rule. Detnan. I'll prove it to you from Mishnah in Eruvin. It says in the Mishnah there, B'chol me'arvin u mishtatvin. When it comes to the food that a person has to put for eruvei chatzeros is the mitzvah we have to be. When a person lives in a chotzer, there's a common, let's say, courtyard, patio, that is surrounded by chatzeros. So it's a communal area that a few people use together, a few families, a few households, but it looks like common, but really it is Reshus ha-yochid. I'm talking now mitzad Shabbos, mitzad carrying on Shabbos. Me'ikar din medoraisa, you can carry from your house to the Reshus ha-yochid, which is a common area. But Chazal, actually Shlomo HaMelech, they established that in order to be able to, you're not allowed to carry from your house to the main area, to the common area that's shared by more than one owner, because it looks confusing. People think that they're moving from Reshus HaYochid to Reshus HaRabim, and they may come to really move to Reshus HaRabim. So they have established Eruvei Chatzeros. Eruvei Chatzeros means that all the families who live in the Chotzer, they all share, they all contribute a piece of bread, or according to Rashi, sounds like other foods as well, into one house, and it's as if they all live in that house, because you are where you eat, where your food is. So it says there, B'chol me'arvin u'mishtatvin, shitufei mezuzah is a very similar idea, but when it comes to the entire street, you're allowed to put any kind of food or drinks in order to, so to speak, represent you in that house where everyone is putting their food, and that house is supposed to be the one house which everybody now lives in, and all the other houses are annulled to that house. And that's how we have now one house and one big chotzer. It's as if we annulled all other houses. How do we do that? With any food, you can contribute any food. You can contribute apples, oranges, yellow cheese, chicken, as long as they're not together. Chutz min hamayim b'melach, except for water and salt. Water and salt is not food. Water is not food. Juice is food because it's at the end of the day, it's like the flesh of the orange or the apple. Water is not food, and salt is not food. Yeah. So those items cannot be placed in that one house in the chotzer. Tosfos argues in Rashi. Tosfos says that we're not talking about eruve chatzeros, we're talking about eruve tchumin. Eruve chatzer, says Tosfos, can only be done with bread. Eruve tchumin, when you want to go 2,000 ames out of town for dvar mitzvah, then you're allowed to place, or you should actually, place some food 2,000 ames away or a little bit less from town. And now this is where you are on Shabbos. This is where you're now stationed on Shabbos, Shoives, and from there you can walk another 2,000 ames. So the food you put there should be anything except for water or salt. The two leika, is that true what the Mishnah said? Is that the only food that's an exception to the rule? Only water or salt? Are they the only foods you cannot use for the eruve, let's say eruve tchumin? Va'ika kmeinu pitrios. Also kmeinu pitrios, which are two different types of mushrooms, those who grow on the ground and those who grow on the trees, kmeinu pitrios, they are also not considered as food that's nutritious enough because they are shahakol. They don't grow from the ground. They grow on the ground as parasites. It's not real food. It's just a parasite on something else. So you see, there are exceptions to the rule besides the chutz mentioned, besides the exception mentioned in the Mishnah. True? Ella, that shows you. Even though the Mishnah there in Eruvin said, Bakol me'arvin, Eruvin can be done with anything and everything except for two things, Maim and Melach. You can still add another exception to the rule, and that's fine. So when the Mishnayos and Braysos tell you rules, they do not mean to say that this is, set in stone. This is not ironclad rule. It's a rule that applies but has its exceptions. Same thing over here. There are exceptions to each direction. Generally speaking, most mitzvos shazman groma women are exempt. Most mitzvos shelo hazman groma women are permitted to do, but there are exceptions to each direction. Mitzvos shazman groma noshim pturos. Frek the Gemara, minolan. How do you know? How do we know that mitzvos that is time related? How do we know the women are exempt? Promised you before. They'll tell you what are the two, possibly there are more. I know of two definitions of mitzvah shazman groma. Rashi says at the beginning of the page, a mitzvah shazman groma means a mitzvah that sometimes applies and sometimes doesn't. Now, there's a question about Kiddush Levana, very interesting question, whether women are mechuyev in Kiddush Levana, and if not, then why? Kiddush Levana, seemingly, mitzvah shazman groma, he only do it once a month. That's quite zman groma to me. But it's not so simple. There's a discussion. It's mentioned in the Chochmas Shlomo, Reb Shlomo Kluger, and some people say that Azman Groma means that the time causes the mitzvah to come. Kiddush Levana is not caused directly by time. It's caused by the appearance of the new moon. Whenever new moon comes, then you have to make the bracha. Yeah. Obviously, it only happens once a month. If in theory, you'd be, I don't know. I don't want to sound crazy, if it's outer space, I don't know, Alaska. Let's say you see the moon twice a month, let's say, in theory, being renewed, yeah? Then what would you do? Well, maybe you have to do Kiddush Levana twice a month, which means it's not the time that causes it, it's the existence of the appearance or reappearance of the new moon that comes again. That's what causes you to do the mitzvah. Therefore, it's not directly Hazman Groma, therefore maybe women are chayiv. Although they say the women should anyhow not do it because of, could be, I don't remember, maybe because of tznias. In any event, it's an interesting question. So it's either a mitzvah that just doesn't always exist, or a mitzvah that is caused by time. In any event, minolan, how do we know? How do we know the women should not really be mekayim mitzvah seseh shazman gomo, or that they're at least exempt? Gomar mitfillin. We learn all the mitzvahs shazman gomo. We learn them from tefillin b'meh matzinu. Just by logical comparison, we know, as we're going to prove soon, that tefillin, women are exempt for tefillin, and therefore, just like they're exempt for tefillin, so too they're exempt from all other mitzvahs, shazman goma. How does that work? Matfillin noshim pturos, just like tefillin, women are exempt from, as we'll prove soon. I've called mitzvahs shazman goma noshim pturos. Very good. So too all other mitzvahs shazman goma, all of tefillin's friends, tzitzis, sukkah, lulav, shofar, exempt from all that. How do you know? How do you know tefillin is exempt from, that the women don't have to put on tefillin? How do you know? Tefillin gomer le'Talmud Torah. Tefillin and Talmud Torah, we all say Krishma twice a day. In the first parsha of Krishma, Tefillin and Talmud Torah are mentioned, right next to each other. V'shinantem levnecha v'dibarta bom v'chulei. What's the next pasuk after a few pasukim? Ukshartom lo yisad yadecha. So Torah and Tefillin are mentioned together, one next to the other. Hekesh, juxtaposition. Ma Talmud Torah noshim pturos, as Tefillin noshim pturos. Just like Talmud Torah, women are exempt from, because banecha and not benoisecha. So to Tefillin, women are exempt from. Fact the Gemara, wait a second, asks the Gemara, there's a third mitzvah. Go further down, one more line. Which one is the last mitzvah in the first parsha of Krishma? That is mezuzah. And mezuzah is not time related. Mezuzah is there on your doorpost 24/7. So wait a second, let us v'nakish tefillin the mezuzah. Why shall we not compare tefillin to mezuzah, which is mentioned right after, as the following pasuk? And just like mezuzah, women have to put on mezuzah, as we said, on the door, even if they live on their own. So to tefillin. Answers the Gemara, nice try, but no. Tefillin no Talmud Torah iskish ben beparsha rishonim ben beparsha shniya. There is the first parsha in Krishma, Dvorim Vov, and second parsha of Krishma, Dvorim Yud Aleph, right? In the second parsha, both in the first parsha of Krishma and the second parsha, Tefillin and Talmud Torah are right next to each other. Tefillin and mezuzah, however, the proximity of Tefillin to mezuzah, the parsha shniya loy iskish. Tefillin to mezuzah is only mentioned together in the first parsha, but Tefillin and mezuzah in the second parsha is not together, because you have Tefillin, Torah, and mezuzah. Because Tefillin and mezuzah are interposed by a separate pasuk, by a third pasuk, so they're not compared. It's math. It's a scoreboard. 2 against 1. Tefillin compared to Torah is twice. Tefillin compared to mezuzah only once. And the winner is the winner is Torah. Torah is the one influencing Tefillin. Just like Torah, women don't have to learn. So too, Tefillin they don't have to put on. And from Tefillin we learn to the entire Torah. The entire Torah, women are exempt from Azman Groma. Like the Gemara, one more try. V'nakish mezuzah Talmud Torah. Wait a second. Why can't you compare mezuzah to Talmud Torah? Because, mezuzah is mentioned right next to Talmud Torah in the second parsha. So why do you assume all the time so strongly, so clearly, that mezuzah is something that women have to actually have? Why? Maybe mezuzah should be influenced by Talmud Torah. Just like Talmud Torah, women don't have to learn Torah, so too they don't have to put on mezuzah. Answers the Gemara, lo yisal k'daytach. You cannot say that. Ekeshim are not always right. They have to be logical. Lo yisal k'daytach. It's illogical to entertain such a thought. Why? It says, "L'manir b'yemechem b'mevnechem." L'manir b'yemechem. Your life will be long if you keep the mitzvah of mezuzah. It's a mitzvah in which arichus yamim is mentioned right next to. In other words, the reward for keeping the mitzvah of mezuzah is long life. We all know mezuzah is protection. Mezuzah is long life. There are myriads of stories about mezuzah was possible, that word, that thing, and therefore says the Torah, Gavri bai chaye, nashilo bai chaye. Only men want to live and women don't want to live. It's a given. Women want to live, so they have to have mezuzah. A similar idea, the Gemara says in Brachas, by tefillah. Tefillah is a zman groma, and yet tefillah, possibly it's a zman groma, but pashtus, and yet women have to daven because the Gemara says, by rachmi. Women need mercy from Hashem. I read in some of the Achronim, women have to say tefillah saderech, krishma lamita, because they want life. They actually quoted this statement here, by chayi. Tefillah saderech, you want life, you want protection. Krishma, when you go to sleep, you need protection from mazikim. Women have to do that because they need life. So let's summarize. So we have 3 mitzvahs mentioned in Krishma. We have tefillin, and that is a question. We were unsure regarding tefillin, the status of tefillin. Torah is clearly only for men. Mezuzah is clearly also for women. Tefillin was somewhere in between. And the winner was Torah influences tefillin more because it's compared to tefillin twice. It's written right next to it twice. So tefillin and Torah are together. Just like Torah, women are not going to have to, supposed to, they're not mechuyev to learn Torah. So to tefillin, women don't have to put. And tefillin teaches you, brings the whole chevra. Tefillin brings all his friends to the mitzvos shehazman groma club of mitzvahs, and none of those mitzvahs, or most of these mitzvahs shehazman groma, just like tefillin, women do not have to keep. Now the Gemara is asking a question. Vari sukkah. I'll challenge you now from the following halacha. Sukkah, the mitzvah says shehazman groma. Clearly, sukkah is azman groma. It says b'sukkos, tesh v'shivas yomim. You sit in the sukkah only 7 days. Okay, so it's azman groma. Once I know it's azman groma, by the rule that we just established, we know automatically, without blinking an eye, women are exempt. And yet, time the kosav rachmana ha'ezrach lo yitzias anoshim. You know why women don't have to sit in the sukkah? It says ha'ezrach v'lo ha'ezrachit. Ha'ezrach is male. That's a male form of a citizen, part of the population. Only a man who's an ezrach, a person who's part of Am Yisrael, as a man, he has to sit in the sukkah, as opposed to women who are not ezrach but ezrachit, she doesn't have to sit in the sukkah. Why do you need that extra word? Halav hachi noshim chayavos. It sounds like the Gemara in sukkah had to go out of its way, and find a pasuk ha'ezrach to exclude women. Mashma that otherwise, if not for that pasuk, they would be committed, they would be obligated. Why? Noshim chayavos? Well, you just told me noshim anyhow are exempt from any mitzvos shazman groma. Omar Abaye itzrich, says Abaye, yes, you do need that extra pasuk ezrach in spite of the rule that we just established. Why? Even although we have a klal of azman groma, I would have still thought that sukkah she does have to keep. Why? Teishvu came to do, there's a famous idea, when it says Teishvu, sit in the sukkah, it doesn't mean to sit in a chair. Teishvu means you should dwell in the sukkah. You should live in the sukkah just like to do, you live in your house. Whatever you do in your house, in the living room, in your dining room, in your kitchen, do that in the sukkah. Whatever, learn Torah, maybe read the newspaper, whatever you do, talk to your children, whatever you do, play a game, a board game, whatever you would have done in your house, do in the sukkah. The normal way of living in your house is the way you should live in the sukkah, except for things that are disrespectful, such as toilet usage and washing the dishes, that you don't do in the sukkah. Other than that, you live as if it was your dining room. If so, I would have actually extended the idea. I would have said, Ma dira ish ve'ishtoi, afsuka ish ve'ishtoi. I would have thought, just like dira, what's the normal way of a normal married couple that live together? Afsuka ish ve'ishtoi. I would have said a woman has to be in the sukkah because she's part of the family, and maybe that's why she has her own personal chiv as well as the men. You have to live as a family. Each and every one of you lives in the family equally, so you have to live in the sukkah. That's what I would have thought, and I would have thought that trumps the rule of mitzvah shazman groma. Kamash malan ha'ezrach. That's when it's an extra special word ha'ezrach to exclude and tell me no, that a woman does not have to sit in the sukkah. The Rava Omar. Rava gives us another reason why I would have thought a woman has to sit in the sukkah. Itzrich. You need the pasuk ha'ezrach. We're now in Lamed Daled Amud Beis. Salkadat Achmina. I would have thought as follows: Ne'elav chamishasa michag hamatzos. Many Jewish holidays, the main ones, Sukkot and Pesach, they both fall on Tesvav. It says in the Torah, b'chamisha asor, b'chodesh Shvi, that's Sukkot. Chamisha asor b'chodesh Rishon is Pesach, and there is a Gzera Shava that exists regarding all kinds of things. There's a Gzera Shava, Tesvav, chamisha asor of Sukkot, chamisha asor of Pesach, teaches you all kinds of halachas that from Pesach you learn, you copy and paste into Sukkot. For example, we know that we have to eat the first kazais of the first night of Sukkot. You have a chiyuv to eat that kazais, just like you have a chiyuv to eat matzah. So if we compare matzah to Sukkot, that brings up the following thought. I would have thought, excuse me, just like women have to eat matzah. And why do they have to eat matzah? Because they're not allowed to eat chometz, and chometz and matzah are together, and they have to eat matzah. So too women have to sit in a sukkah. I would have thought matzah and sukkah go hand in hand, tezvav. That's why tzricha. That's why the Torah comes and tells me, no, you should know that really it's a very nice idea, very interesting havamina, the tezvav, but no, women really do not have to sit in the sukkah if they don't want to because of the he'ezrach. By the way, the reason why women have to drink daled koises, the four cups they drink because they were part of the nes. That's a Gemara in Psochim Kufches, but it's not because of the matzah and chometz, two separate things. Chometz matzah is one chiyuv. They have to eat matzah because it's the opposite of chometz, and the daled koises is the rabbanon because afhem hoyu boisanes, they're also saved from Mitzrayim, or they were instrumental in the geula. Correct the Gemara, one more question. Look at Re'iyah. Yeah, excuse the pun. Look at Re'iyah. The mitzvah of Re'iyah, 3 times a year, your men, yeah, the male gender people, yeah, we have to go up to Yerushalayim 3 times a year. Women are not mechuyev. They can come along, and many times they did, says Toisves, but not mechuyev. Re'iyah, the mitzvah says, Shazman Groma. If not that, obviously, what is? It's a mitzvah says very time related, 3 times a year. That's it. Yeah, you go up to Beis Hamikdash with your feet, and then what on your feet, and you bring a korban. Only men have to do it. It's a zman grama, okay. And yet, the time the cost of Rachmana zchurecha loitzi anoshim. The Torah clearly spells out only the male, only the men have to be part of that mitzvah, excluding women. Why? Alav hachi noshim chayavois. It sounds like the Torah had to go out of its way to add a word zchurecha to tell me only men and not women. But why? You just told me there's a rule that women are any apotter from Azman Groma. Why do you need an extra word for that? And says the Gemara, it's here too. I would have thought that the rule of Azman Groma here is being pushed away. Why? I would have thought, Neilach, let us learn Re'iyah mehakel, period. What I thought as follows. It says regarding mitzvahs hakel. Hakel is a mitzvah where women do participate. Yeah. It says anoshim noshim v'taf. Men, women, and children have to come and listen to the melech while he's reading Chumash Dvorim, not from the Chumash, while he's reading Sefer Dvorim from the Sefer Torah in Beis Hamikdash on a bima in Ezras Noshim on the sukkahs after Shemitah. That mitzvah is definitely a mitzvah that applies to women as well. And it says in that mitzvah, to be seen. Oh, and it also says about Aliyah Larego 3 times a year, a separate mitzvah to go to Beis Hamikdash 3 times a year. Also it says Yero'eh. I would have thought there's Exer Shava again, just like Yero'eh, Re'iyah. Just like women have to be seen in Beis Hamikdash once in 8 years, maybe they have to be seen, similar pasuk, 3 times a year. 3 times a year. If so, Havamina, women are also obligated. To exclude the women. But then, if not for that, the rule applies. The rule is always still true till women are exempt from mitzvos. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you to everybody in YouTube, Torah Anytime, Zoom, and for everybody who came this morning to Shiur. Thank you. Hatzlacha uvrocha. Have a great day. May Klal Yisrael have Yeshua, and we'll be able to go up to Beis Hamikdash very soon. Thank you.